Welcome to our presentation today on the WQA Business Operations Report. I hope that you'll find this presentation informative and will help you with completing the questions in the report, as well as how to interpret and use the results when those are available. And I think you'll find useful information in this, whether you're a first-time participant in the report or if you participated in the past rounds and are looking for a refresher on it. So just a little bit of housekeeping to begin with. We are recording this webinar, so if you know anyone who couldn't attend or need to review the information in the future, we will be making this available on our website for you to access. We have everyone muted during this webinar just to avoid background noise and things like that. So please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen there and feel free to put any questions or comments you have throughout the presentation. And we should have time to address all of those at the end. Here's an overview of our agenda for the day. So I'll start with some introductions and some background on the report and a overview of how to use the site and enter your data. And then Courtney and Jody will be sharing their perspective as dealers who have participated in this report. And then I'll wrap it up with a look at the timeline and next steps, and then we will do our Q&A at the end. So wanted to introduce our speakers for today. So my name is Brianna Pizotic. I'm the Technical Affairs Manager at WQA. I'm the liaison for the Industry Research Committee, which is the committee that oversees this report and helped to put it together. And I will also be your main contact for this report. So any questions or things that come up when you send them to the email that's on the screen there, biztrends@wqa.org, those will all be going to me. We also have Jody on with us today. Jody is the Chief Operating Officer of the Culligan Water Conditioning Packard Group and was a volunteer on our team, which helped to review this report and help make improvements to it. And she will be sharing the perspective of a dealership with multiple locations. We also have Courtney Zakowski, the owner of Best Water Solutions and chair of the Industry Research Committee. She also was a volunteer on the group that helped review this report, and she will be sharing the perspective of a single location dealership who is participating. And then lastly, we have Sally Green, who is our account manager at Dynamic Benchmarking, which is the company which hosts the site and helps us sort of on the back end with developing the questions and the reports and things as that. So she will also be available for the Q&A if questions arise about the site and those sorts of things. So first, a little bit of background on the report. So this really came about as a request from our members that they wanted more more business tools and those sorts of resources. So back in 2019, we put together a group of industry volunteers to help us design what this sort of tool would look like, what sort of questions should we be asking, develop the request for proposals, and select a vendor to run the report. So this launched originally, the first round was in 2021, and then we also ran this report in 2022 and 2023. And then we kind of took a bit of a break here to review the report and make some improvements on it, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. But really this report was the result of a lot of input from industry and dealer members that really helped us hone in on what our members need and what would benefit their companies. A quick overview on the types of things you're going to see covered in this report. So it's an online business tool to help our dealers in the US specifically. So it was designed for US dealers outside the US. It currently does not apply for them. But it lets you compare your business to others in the industry in 5 key areas, which include company profiles, so things like the size of your business and your location, financial performance, covering things like revenue and expenses, operations and sales, compensation, as well as employee benefits and training. And we really tried to make this report applicable to dealers of any size. So whether you're a very small dealership or a large one that's got locations all across the US, we tried to make a report that works for everybody. And really, the purpose of this is to enter your company's data to see how you are doing individually and then how you compare to the industry, whether it's as a whole or to a similar peer group based on filtering the data. And by participating in this report, you'll get access to individualized benchmark calculations and dynamic results that should really help your company out on lots of these different areas here. So as I mentioned, it's been a couple years since we ran the report, and the reason for that was we wanted to improve it from the past rounds. So we put together a small team of member dealers who met 1 to 2 times a month throughout 2024 to really delve into every single question that's in the survey to look at what maybe wasn't useful or what was difficult for dealers to complete in the last round. And we worked on revising questions, deleting questions, or adding questions in an effort to simplify and shorten the survey while still making sure it brings value to our members. So a lot of effort was put into this to um, make it new and improved for this round. So hopefully you will see that as you go through and fill out the report. Just wanted to highlight a few features of the site that you'll notice as you go through and fill out the report. We do have a user guide which covers everything that we're going over today in more depth, so feel free to access that on the support page of the website. As well as we also have help text to use throughout the report to really guide you on what exactly you should be entering. So make sure you're referring to that as well if you have any questions as you move through um, the survey. There's also a way that you can download the questions into an Excel format. So if you need to share it with others at your company to get their input on entering data, there's an easy way you can download that and send out an Excel report for them to fill out questions. Um, the site will save your data as you go, so you don't feel like you have to go in and enter everything at once. Feel free to log in and out and complete it, over several days or several weeks, whatever works for you. Um, and then for multi-year participants, if you participated in any of our previous years, and maybe there are parameters that have not changed for your company since the last time. So for example, maybe your benefits haven't changed. There is a button that will allow you to copy the prior year data, and that'll just populate in what you entered in the last round, and then you can update it as needed. So it can really speed up your participation for this round. Now, I also wanted to cover some of the data security aspects because I know that sharing this type of information, there can be some concerns about the security of sharing things like salary and sales, things like that. So just wanted to highlight that this data is very secure. Everything is hosted and managed by dynamic benchmarking, which I mentioned earlier, sorry. And they have several layers of security and encryption to make sure your data is safe. We only release results as aggregated data that can't be traced back to specific companies. So no one's ever going to see your individual data outside of you and then very select group of WQA staff and dynamic benchmarking staff for the purposes of helping with data entry, reviewing data, things like that. So no one else is going to see your individual data. And anytime filters are applied to the site, it requires a minimum of 5 responses per question. So you can only drill down so much before it's going to error out. So just know that there's several layers of security built in to help make sure that everything you entered is secure. And then here is the homepage that you'll see once you log into the report. So I just wanted to highlight a few of the things you'll see there. So first of all, at the top left, there's your current account drop down. So if you're a single location dealer, that'll just be the only account that you have. But if you do have multiple locations, that drop down will be where you select what location you're entering your data for. Number two on the top right is your My Account and Support page. So that's where you'll access the user guide and other materials that are helpful for you to fill out the report, as well as editing your account information. Number three, also on the right side of the screen, there is the year selection. So that'll default to the current year for data entry. So if you're just entering this year's data, you don't need to change that. But if you participated in previous rounds and you want to see older data, that is where you would go to change what year you are viewing. Number four, just below the year dropdown is the download button. So that's where you go to download the results into an Excel sheet and then share with whoever you need to at your company to get their input on the data. Five, there I was just highlighting some of the status icons that are used as you enter data. So that'll just alert you to, green check mark means you filled everything out in that section, you're good to go. Exclamation point indicates that there might be an issue with the data you need to review or double check what you entered, things like that. So you can also have a look at those to help you as you're filling out the different sections. And then lastly, the completion rate tracker at the bottom of the screen there just shows you how far along you are to completing everything. So in order to access the results, you will have to fill out at least 50% of the total questions and then all the required questions. So not every question you see in the survey is required for you to fill out, but there is a certain threshold you have to hit in order to gain access to those results. Um, so again, just a little bit onto the different things you'll encounter when entering your data. Anything with a red asterisk means that's a required question, so you'll have to fill that out. Um, make sure you're clicking save at the bottom of every page as you enter your data, as it's not going to automatically save, so make sure you are hitting that button as you move through the report. Some questions might not apply to your company. So we did add a not applicable checkbox to a lot of the questions. So feel free to use that if you if the question doesn't apply to you. And then also keep a lookout for data checks, is what we call them, used throughout the site. So certain questions might we expect them to add up to a certain number, for instance, 100% or something along those lines. So those are built in to just help you double check while you're entering. So those might flag if something seems off when you're entering your numbers. So just pay attention to the data checks as well, because those will help you out. So how do you get signed up for this report? If you are a single location dealership, you just simply go to the URL on the screen there, which takes you to the home page, and click the button to create an account. If you are a multi-location dealership, um, we ask that you send us an email at biztrends@wqa.org, because it's a little more complicated to get you signed up. So if you reach out to us, we will help you through the back end to make sure you can access all your locations with a single login. And then if you're a past participant and are participating again, you simply log into your account and then you can use that copy prior year data I mentioned earlier. And then when results become available, you will have access to an additional report which will trend your answers over time to these different topics. So it's a really cool way to see how things have changed for your company um, over the years. And with that, then I will pass it over to Courtney to share her perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Brianna. Um, I am the owner of a small dealership in Florida. We're single location, and by small, I mean, 5 trucks, 10 employees. Um, I'm a huge proponent of this report and have been from the start because I think this just has such amazing value added for dealers of any size from WQA, and a great way for us to all use all of our input and to be able to look around and see how are we doing versus other dealers. So again, I am an independent dealer. This means that I don't readily have any access to other folks' information. I don't have any external view for how we are doing as a business versus how somebody else of a similar size or a bigger size or smaller size is. Um, and so for me, number one, this is a really great view for why this report is useful. Adding a second point, which is also I don't have good insight into how the industry is doing as a whole. Um, I'm a heck of a networker. I will talk to people at the WQ events. I will talk to folks, other dealerships, ask them how they're doing. But I don't have any systemic uh, insights into how our industry is doing. This is especially since post COVID. We all knew that during COVID, rising ship lifts all boats. After that, though, it's a little confusing. How is my growth versus other people's? Leading to I'm growing. Our business is growing. Is it at a decent rate? Is it standard for the industry? Is it standard for folks of my business's size? Another one, am I growing in the right ways? This one always, as a business owner, always makes me think more. What am I doing on installations versus what am I doing on service or maintenance, salt deliveries, these sort of things? Are these in the right ways? Comes to staffing as a whole other element. I am constantly thinking about when I'm hiring, am I hiring in the right spots? Is my balance of technicians to office staffs the correct ratio? At what point do I add on another technician? At what point, what kind of do I need to see for revenue to be adding on more people in the office? Then there are additional higher level staff members that I'm always curious about that are, the sales reps, that are the service managers. At what point do I have to get at relative to other businesses to be at a point where I can invest in those additional staff members? And then there's the other operating expenses. I know what my rent costs. Is this a normal portion of my operating expenses? I don't know. Marketing, am I spending sufficient enough in advertising and marketing? How is that for other people with my same revenue? So these are all things that I think about as a business owner and that I get assistance from with this BizOps report. So I figured this would be sort of the biggest questions. Okay, for folks who haven't done this before, what does this mean when we're filling out the data? Number one, who fills it out? Again, small business perspective and just my experience is me. Why is it me? It's me because, at least for my dealership, I'm the one that has insights into our financials, into our payroll. I have access into QuickBooks where other folks don't have access into QuickBooks. I have access into the payroll stats that other people don't. So in my particular dealership, it is something that I do by myself, maybe different for others. Next question then, how long does it take me? This one, I put the mirror back up and I say, it really depends on how organized you are. How quickly can you get access to this information, or do you need to create something to help get you the information to input? For me, I am leaning hard on all tools that I already have access to. So, QuickBooks. I know my QuickBooks really well. I can hop in on there and I can start figuring out, for example, the expense questions on the finance section, which line items in QuickBooks I need to be adding up to get to those answers. Pro tip, once you've done it the first time, give yourself some notes for the next year so that you remember which things you're adding up for your expenses. The same for payroll. Uh, I use ADP, and I've got a great way to go into the ADP system, and I can say how many people I employed at the beginning of the year, how many people I employed at the end of the year, how many hours they worked. I don't need to calculate any of that. I can grab it. For things like installations, the amount of units you're installing. For this, I lean in hard. I use Service Titan. I lean hard on their reporting, but I'm sure other reporting systems or CRM systems that you have something pretty similar. So more organized you are, the better it's going to be. I I will warn, I tend to go down rabbit holes. Squirrel, I'm searching for something, and in the process of doing that, I end up looking at a few other things. So I say for me, it takes up to 2 hours if I can constrain myself from not going down my rabbit hole as I stare at QuickBooks and I see that shouldn't be here, this should be there. Then I could probably do it a lot quicker. But again, I'll give credit to this report. I like the rabbit holes. I like that in the process of filling out this information as a business owner, it gives me a chance to stop and think and to look at the data that I'm putting in and give it a little thought. So I'm not only just comparing it to the other dealers as a benchmarking, but I'm also using it as an opportunity for me to see, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? Oh, this is interesting. Why do I have this amount of installations this year versus the previous year? But again, be wary of the rabbit holes. So I'm going to share a little bit about the final report, what it is that I use it for. For me, the number one thing that I do is I filter my final report, and this is after the results are given. I filter my final report to dealerships that are my revenue size. So I always do first thing filter revenue of $1 million to $2 million a year. That hits me in my sweet spot and lets me really get a good comparison. From there, what am I looking at? Number one, staff size. Am I bloated on staff, technician staff, office employee staff? Am I higher than others? Am I lower than others? It gives me a really good base point that otherwise I would struggle to figure out. Same for the staff structure. Um, these are interesting points as dealerships in that size are starting to grow. At what point, are you adding on additional sales reps? How many do you have? Is it time to add in another? Do you already have a lot for the type of revenue that you're doing? Do you have a heavy amount of sales reps for people, other dealerships in that revenue zone who have much less? That is this maybe, are you not working as efficiently as you should be? Same for a service manager. When I start looking in there and seeing at what point do people start adding on a service manager, where in that revenue, that gives me a good insight into, again, benchmarking. How am I growing versus other people that same size? There's a whole section of the BizOps report that is about the number of units installed. Uh, this one's fascinating because it breaks down into both your point of entry and the point of use. There's an additional breakdown within the point of entry by different technologies. Uh, these ones I really find fascinating when you're breaking it down, filtering it through by the size of the dealership, be it by the number of technicians, and or the size of the dealership by the revenue. Financial expenditures, another area that I focus on when I get my report. Key, technician pay. We know in the economy where things are going, increased costs of labor. Am I keeping up on this? There's definitely going to be geographical disparities, but again, this report lets you to filter those down. I'm in Florida. I can be looking at just the Southeast region and seeing what people are paying technicians. As I said earlier, facility costs. What is the amount that I'm paying for this facility? How is that in relationship to the other expenses? Same for the marketing expenses as well, and the return on that marketing expenses as well. Benefits always a question, especially it's for everybody, small dealers, not excluded on this one. How many other folks are giving these benefits that we kind of attribute to larger organizations? Health insurance, paid time off, retirement, 401k. Are they matching the 401ks? Are the health insurance benefits, is it just for the employee or is it also for their family members? All of this information is there and available and something I access readily. So I threw in here a couple of slides. The report is, for those who haven't done it before, the report in the end that you get out, it's quite intense. There's a lot of information here. So I'm just sharing a couple of ones based on what I just outlined of what it is that I look at. These answers are from what we submitted for I think this was the 2021 fiscal year data. So what we submitted in 2022. So this isn't my current view, but I wanted to sort of share back to that. Am I top heavy on my employees? Well, Courtney, it looks like I might be. I definitely am up on the higher end when it comes to the number of technicians that I have on staff. Again, this is filtered by people in the revenue zone that I'm looking at, which is 1 million to 2 million. The 25th percentile, they're at 1.25 technicians. 50th percentile has 2 technicians, 75th at 2.78. Me at 4, I'm up on a heavier end. Something worth thinking about. Why do I have so many technicians versus others with the same revenue? And then that goes hand in hand with the point of entry and point of use installations. Now, these are the number of units. This one I just think is an interesting perspective because what we're saying is, okay, for all of my technicians, I'm actually installing a high amount of installations. So that helps explain a bit there. My point of entry, there's a lot of them. I mean, I am definitely top heavy when we're looking at the green coloration for the point of entry installations. But I'm also seeing a little opportunity here because what's my 50 point of use installations, which puts me down below the 25th percentile, where people are on average installing 53. So again, back to that first question that I wrote down of, am I growing at the right rate? And am I growing in the right units with the right business mix? That's all I got from small.
Thanks, Courtney. Hi, everyone. I'm Jody Show. I'm with the Packard Culligan Water, and we have 34 sites that we work with. And I was excited to serve on the committee and kind of work on this report because as I was thinking about preparing for this, I thought, well, I could just say ditto to what Courtney said because I agree with everything that you look at. I think no matter what perspective there, but really kind of why do we participate and what is the benefit of it, and really thinking about how and what benchmarking is. It's really a way that we can measure ourselves against others and basically the industry standards there. So we can identify where our strengths might be and where areas of improvement are. So, one way to do that is looking at data to help us really drive some decisions. So thinking about this reporting, how we can use the data first to identify some patterns. Really, how do we compare with other dealerships on some key metrics? And like they've said before, you can drill down by revenue size, by area, and a lot of different ways you might look at some patterns there, and then you can measure performance. There's revenue comparisons, different expense, the mix of point of use versus point of entry that Courtney talked about. So really a lot of different ways that you can look at that performance and measure it. And then lastly, just how do you identify those areas for improvement, whether it be the growth in the revenue, maybe some efficiencies and costs, whether employees, benefits, building, marketing, and then really where maybe you should be investing that you might not be compared to some others. And with having multi-sites, you do have access to probably some more data, but you also need verification. Just you can be working in your own sites and maybe not asking enough questions to others, and this really helps kind of decide, are you on the right path? Do we need to look into some things? And our local managers running the sites use this information for that as well. As we talk about the multi-dealer, I'm not sure if Brianna covered it, but you can assign others some access to the reporting. So while Courtney's entering her data herself, you can assign, we have, a accountant that helps us on staff and our HR team to really help entering that data. And you can enter it in phases. And I love the little bar at the bottom that kind of shows you where you are along the way. So if it was your first time, you might feel a little overwhelmed at all the data. So I just encourage you not to overthink it and just start entering some data and go from there. But on the perspective of the multi-dealer, being able to look at the industry data by dealership, by revenue size, financially, business operations and compensation and benefits. And Courtney hit on some great examples of all of that. It's helpful to have that in. We'll enter each one's data. And then if you want to hit, there's a lot of ease on that reporting. So you can download data when it's finished into Excel, and it easily is comparing where you are on compared to the different percentiles, the 25th, 50th, and 75 on there. So I too included a few examples. As you can see, there's different views too. This one is a line graph that you can look at. So some things, as you look at data differently too, you may see a pattern or something that's important. This one is on an EBITDA, so earnings before all the fun accounting stuff. But this one I think is a key one. Are our EBITDA goals, where we're falling, are they in line with others in the industry as well? And you can see that sample data there just to let you know where you are. And then the next one is advertising and marketing is always a great one per installation, and how your spending is compared to others. And you'll even see in the top right corner, it tells you how many responses. So that also gives you a good gauge of what you're comparing yourself to. Yeah. And they are just close from my perspective. On the committee, our goal was really, how do we keep this simple yet focused on, that relevant data for every size of business here, and again, keep the data secure and relevant for all of us in making decisions. Thank you.
Brianna, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Jody. So just to wrap us up on next steps here, you go ahead and create an account or log into your existing account at the link on the screen there. And then we are hoping to wrap up the survey by the end of July. So try to get in there and get everything done by then, just so we can get results compiled and released this fall. But also wanted to point out that there are your own personalized benchmark calculations you'll have access to immediately after you complete the data entry. It's just those results comparing you to the industry as a whole, you won't get until we reach a sufficient response rate and release those. Of course, any questions at all, reach out to that email, biztrends@wqa.org, and we'll be happy to help you out there. And with that, we'll just wrap it up with any questions here. So feel free to pop those in chat, or if you were more comfortable speaking them, just hit that, let me know in chat, and I can unmute you and allow you to talk as well. So let me just check the chat here. I'm just seeing one question right now asking if this will be recorded. Yes, it will be recorded and can be shared with all those who are registered as well as posted on our website. Uh, let's see. Emily, I see you raised your hand. Okay, you should be able to speak now.
I was going to ask if this presentation y'all can email to us so we can have screenshots and images of those different areas to click on when we're in the program.
Sure. Yep, I can send this out. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Looks like Mike, you have a question as well. You should be unmuted now.
Okay. I was just wondering how granular you get on the digital marketing expense bucket.
On the digital marketing, I believe we ask it as a percentage of your total marketing expenses. So we break it down into, I think, 4 or 5 categories, and one of those is digital marketing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's in the financial end, there's a line there about what the marketing expenses are.
Oh, yeah, good point.
And then
Yes.
and then in the flip side, there's about how people hear about you. Was that more about the referrals? Am I right
Yeah.
on this, Sally? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, we have a section on lead generation by category, and those categories include referrals, personal outreach, digital lead marketing, or print, TV, radio lead generation. So
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up here?
Can I add one more pro tip? I forgot to emphasize this. You'd brought it up earlier though, Brianna, which is copy prior year data. If once you've done the report once, it's going to remember all of that information. And on each screen, you have the ability to tick one box and it will copy all of the previous data from the last year that you input. Not that that data is going to be the same, but I find when I'm doing each new year reporting, it just helps kickstart a little bit more. I get a sense of like where we were from the previous year, and it helps in which answers I filled out the last year and which ones did I not. Copy prior year data. It's a good one.
Okay, looks like we have a couple more questions here. Are we considering payroll for a marketing team member in that cost? I assume that's referring to the marketing expenses. I'd have to double check, but I don't believe payroll would be included in that cost. But like I said, there is help text built into it, so it should specifically say what gets lumped into that bucket when you're filling it out. Another question, I'm assuming this report can only be viewed by WQA members. Correct. So only WQA members can participate, and also only those who participate can view the results. So it's kind of like you have to enter your data in order to view data. So you're correct. It's only for WQA members, but you also have to participate. So if you're a dealer member who doesn't participate, you won't be able to see the full results. Okay, not seeing any other questions, so I think we go ahead and wrap it up here, but thanks for joining everyone. Hopefully this was helpful, and feel free to reach out with any questions. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day.